Space Harrier would be volume 4 in the SEGA Ages 2500 series that's all released for the PlayStation 2 in Japan. And this series would be a re-envisioning of classic arcade games and even console games that would have been developed by SEGA over the years. And Space Harrier originally was an iconic arcade game, but also got ports to the SEGA Master System and Mega Drive. And this re-envisioning of the game replaces the scale 2D sprites with 3D textured models, with some various tweaks to the gameplay, combat mechanics, level design, and some remixes to the classic music tracks that were seen in the game, which also adds in a lock-on feature with the weapon similar to Panzer Dragoon. And there's some other additional features with a fractal mode that removes the standard checkerboard floors and replaces them with more realistic graphics and scenery. But aside from all of the visual references, the style and how the game is played is pretty much the same from that of the original versions, but it just puts a modern spin on an all-time classic. And if you're a fan of 3D arcade games or even standard arcade games from way back in the day, there's very little indifference in terms of the way the game plays in general. You'll feel right at home all the same. Even for myself personally, going back, my first experience with Space Harrier was I originally got it for Christmas when I was about 11 years old, and I got it as a Christmas present for the Sega Master System. And I remember playing it and finding it extremely difficult, but at the same time it was very, very addictive. Now I will admit it took me years to figure out how to finish the game. It took me about 4 or 5 years before I managed to get good enough at the game to finish it, only to find out after finishing it that there was hidden cheats in the game at the time that allowed you to have continues on the levels that you're playing on, so at least that you could have additional lives. But it wasn't always apparent because some of the secrets in a lot of these older games were so well hidden that even games magazines at the time didn't even know about them. And even to get the cheats to actually work was pure luck in most parts in terms of button presses and combinations. It was just very, very tricky to get a lot of these type of cheats or hidden things to work, but still it was all the fun of the experience itself. Like, so you were always trying to find these elements. That's what I love about older games. You were always trying to find ways to either find shortcuts or to find hidden things that you could use to your advantage, or to find or explore areas that you couldn't get into or weren't supposed to be in. You'd always try to find some way to break the game if you could, let's just put it that way. But Space Harrier is definitely a classic. Like, I enjoyed my time with it. Even going back to revisit this version of the game, I played this version originally as part of the Sega Classics collection that would have been released in other regions for the PlayStation 2 back in 2004, and the collection comprised of many arcade classics and console classics, with all that were remastered with 3D visuals and aesthetics. You had the likes of Space Harrier, there was Golden Axe, Outrun, Virtua Racing, Super Monaco Grand Prix, and many other iconic classics. But I found myself spending a lot of time. I originally bought it because I wanted to experience the newer version of Outrun, but even the fact is that this game was on it as well, and because I had experienced it many years before playing it on the Sega Master System, I did want to re-experience the game from a whole new point of view. And in fairness, I wasn't disappointed. The game is a lot of fun to play. It has some really cool features that have been added into it, but I will admit that this game is equally as difficult as that of the original, because the pace of the game is much, much faster compared to what I would have played on the Sega Master System. And it definitely takes a lot of skill and patience to get used to this game, because when you lose all of your lives, that's it, game over. There's no way to go about doing or even trying to get back into the level. You literally have to start the game from scratch again, which just brings me back to all those days and all those attempts that I tried to play in the game only to keep failing time and time again. So this game is reflective of that type of element. It's old school in it's the way that it plays, but it's still fun, it's still iconic, but it's just from a whole new standpoint or modern perspective at the time. So if you're a fan of Space Harrier, you need to check out this version. And if you do love arcade games, this is another one that you can add to your list to try out. And I would love to know your thoughts of this version of Space Harrier for the PlayStation if you have played it yourself, and if so, what did you think of the game overall? Are you a fan of the games themselves, or did you equally find them as frustrating as I did back in the day? So I would love to hear your thoughts on this game, so be sure to share it down in the comments below. And if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to be updated with future videos. And if you would like to see more videos around other types of arcade classics who are also released on the PS2, then you can check out the playlist on screen to see more of those games in action. And I will see you all in the next one.